안녕하세요. 동탕원코입니다. 오늘 운동을 해야 되는데 감기가 또 걸렸어. 코랑 여기가 너무 아픕니다 지금. 병원에 가서 약을 처방을 받고 왔는데 점심 저녁 약을 먹었는데 몸이 안 좋네요. 코 찔찔이가 됐습니다. 코 찔찔이. 그래서 일단은 운동을 해야 되기 때문에 턱걸이 10개만 하고 일단 턱걸이 한번 해보고 상황 보면서 더 할게요. 다행히 아직 몸살 기운은 없습니다. 그래서 운동을 더 할 수 있을 것 같긴 한데 할만한데요? 할만합니다. 여러분 감기 조심하세요. 힘들고 콧물 나고 그런데 운동은 잘 되네요. 아, 아, 3세트까지 했습니다. 여유 있게 한 것 같아요. 확실히 월요일 날에는 밴드업을 할 수 있을 것 같습니다. 그리고 저쪽 넘어가서 팔굽혀펴기라는 것도 좀 해야겠어요. 요즘에 팔굽혀펴기 너무 안 해가지고 어. 하. '행잉 레그레즈 한번 해볼까요? 복근에 자극이 되기는커녕 이 손만 엄청 아프네요. 와. 야. 야. 아. 4세트까지 했는데 한 번 더 할게요. 한 번 더 하고 저쪽 넘어가서 팔굽혀펴기를 해야겠습니다. 여기가 아파서 못하겠어. 엄청 오랜만에 여기 앉아보는 것 같은데. CNN.
Grave dangers to democracy from within the government.
No, Lincoln went on, it was not the foreign aggressor we must fear. It was corrosion from within, the rot, the viciousness, the lassitude, the ignorance. Anarchy is one potential consequence of all this. Another is the rise of an ambitious leader, unfettered by conscience or precedent or decency, who would make himself supreme.
CNN military analyst and retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling knows the balance between duty and politics. He joins us via Skype now from Orlando, Florida. So great to have you with us on the show. What do you make of Jim Mattis's comments last night? It's a fun dinner. You can be quirky, but at the same time, he's refused to talk about his time as a cabinet secretary. What do you make of his decision to criticize the president last night?
I didn't care for it, Julia. I'll do an analysis. He is a former general, but he's also a former cabinet member, and I think he's using the shield of being a former professional military officer to say, hey, I'm not going to talk about the commander-in-chief. Unfortunately, he was a member of the cabinet. He's also told many people in the media that he's not going to comment on his time as the Secretary of Defense, and yet he's giving not only sort of these broad philosophical, ideological quotes from Lincoln, but he's also specifically insulting the president. And that, in my view, is unprofessional. And yes, the Al Smith dinner is known as a roast. You should have some comedy there. But he was pointing directly at a president that was not in attendance. And in my view, that was completely unprofessional and it wasn't a good representation of either being a professional military officer or a former cabinet member.
Unprofessional, but he is raising concerns that other military leaders are. I point to an op-ed in the New York Times today from Admiral McRaven. He's a former commander of the United States Special Operations Command. The title of it, Our Republic is Under Attack from the President. Did you read this op-ed, Sarah, and what do you make of this? Because it does raise some very critical concerns, I think, that have been raised even in the last few days with what we're seeing in northern Syria right now.
Yeah, I certainly did read the op-ed, and I'm friends with Bill McRaven. He's a terrific military officer, a fabulous strategist as well. And what I'd say is that this is a tale of two general officers. One that's posing some real challenges, showing the challenges to our government based on Mr. Trump's actions, and he's doing it in a very professional and thoughtful way. That mirrored against Secretary Mattis disrespecting the president is what I'm saying is unprofessional. There's quite a few military officers, senior military officers, speaking out against the international relations and national security policies of this administration right now, because they are, in many cases, the experts in these regions. And the president, frankly, should be critiqued for many of his actions because he is not an expert in national security and he's not listening to the experts. And it's brought us to a very dangerous time. And that's where I think Admiral McRaven's op-ed in the New York Times yesterday was spot on. It should be read by everyone because it does show the dangers of the president's actions in some of these international relations that he's pursuing.
Mark, can I ask you very quickly if you think morale, particularly for younger officers right now serving in the US military, is being damaged in light of all the things that you're discussing here, and whether you believe America is a less safe place as a result of the behavior of this president and the White House?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't offer a commentary on morale in the military. I spent part of last week actually at a convention for the United States Army, and soldiers are in the military, in the Army, are doing their jobs. They know what their duty is. They live by a professional ethos. But I will tell you, Julia, and this is fascinating to me, during this convention, I had never heard as much discussion of civil-military relations and commentary on the dangers that Mr. Trump, our president, is putting those civil-military relations under right now because of some of his actions. The professional military ethic is important. It's taught to military officers and non-commissioned officers, and it's a code and an ethos that they live by. And to have these kind of disruptions and seeing senior leaders, in some cases like McRaven's or Stavridis or Mattis, speak out, it causes the junior officers to say, hey, that's really not our role. Our role is to serve the country, but someone should be speaking out when it endangers the protection of our Constitution.
It's tough, isn't it? Finding that balance is very tough. Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, sir, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
It's a pleasure, Julia.
President
Thanks
Trump's,
for being
thank you. President Trump's acting chief of staff raised eyebrows and the ire of Democrats when he announced next year's G7 summit will be held at President Trump's golf resort in Florida. Now, you may recall the president promoted the idea of holding the G7 at Doral near the end of this year's G7 summit in France. His acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, says Doral is far and away the best physical facility for the meeting. Critics say Mr. Trump would personally profit from holding the summit there, which would violate the US Constitution. Over to the UK now, where Prime Minister Boris Johnson is holding a cabinet meeting in around an hour's time, where he'll get a better gauge on whether or not his new Brexit deal could go through UK Parliament. The moment of truth comes on Saturday, when British MPs will vote on that new plan. Let's go live now to Nick Robertson, who's at Downing Street. Nick, and I know you've been poring over the numbers here, and I have to say, I've been doing the same, and it looks incredibly tight here.
It does, and one of those people that Boris Johnson wanted to persuade, one of the senior figures within the ERG group, that is the sort of hardline Brexiteers within his own party. We saw him go in, he said, I've got some questions for Mr. Johnson, I'm going to go and put to them, and he seemed in quite a moderate, if upbeat mood. When he came out, he didn't come over to the cameras to speak. He put his head down and stomped off down the street. He did not seem like a happy man. So whatever he heard from the Prime Minister didn't make him happy, and he was definitely somebody who was in two minds about whether or not to support Boris Johnson. I'd say that looked like a no for the Prime Minister. Now, he is also appealing to the more moderate former conservatives in his party
파국
who
공격이
were
20대 마지막 하고
for not
끝내겠습니다.
voting along party
아,
lines.
힘들어요.
Recently, perhaps the Prime Minister's estimated to have a little more success with them. There's 21 of them. He may have half of them in the bag by now. And then there's the Labour MPs in the opposition. And the opposition, of course, is going to vote against the deal. But there are some Labour MPs whose constituents voted very clearly for leave, and there'll be pressure on them. And some of them, 5 of them, supported Theresa May in her last vote for the withdrawal agreement. So perhaps Boris Johnson can get a few more of those on side. But it may not be enough. He needs 320.